Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are once again the talk of the NFL, but not for the reasons their fans were hoping for. As the 2025 season hits its midway point, the team finds itself facing a brutal combination of injury devastation and trade speculation. According to insider Jordan Schultz, the Commanders are reportedly open to trading several players, including offensive linemen Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti, as they brace for yet another wave of tough personnel decisions. It's a sign that Washington may be shifting its focus toward the long-term future, even as the present continues to crumble before their eyes. The timing couldn't be worse, because just as this news started circulating, the Commanders lost two more key contributors, wide receiver Luke McCaffrey and cornerback Marshon Lattimore, to likely season-ending injuries. Add that to rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels already being sidelined, and Washington's depth chart suddenly looks like a patchwork quilt made of desperation and duct tape. Let's start with the trade front, because that's where the first tremors of change started shaking the locker room. Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti, both seasoned veterans, have spent most of this season in backup roles, but their value around the league might be higher than ever precisely because of their experience and versatility. Offensive linemen rarely become available on the trade market. Teams guard them like treasure, and Wiley in particular brings the kind of positional flexibility that general managers love. He can line up at guard or tackle, which gives him an edge for teams looking to shore up their protection units heading into the playoff push. Wiley's story is a fascinating one when you look at the arc of his career. He wasn't a top draft pick, not even close. After going undrafted in 2017, he bounced around the league, spending time on practice squads with the Colts, Browns, and Chargers. It wasn't until December of that same year that he landed on the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad, a move that would change the trajectory of his career. Under Andy Reid, Wiley developed into a reliable and tough lineman, earning starting reps and eventually becoming a fixture during the Chiefs' dominant run through multiple Super Bowl appearances. When Wiley signed with the Commanders in 2023 on a 3-year, $24 million deal, it was meant to bring leadership and stability to a young offensive line. But football is a game of constant change, and just 2 seasons later, the situation looks very different. Wiley, now 31, restructured his deal heading into 2025, but he's made only 4 starts in 9 games this season. His $6.5 million base salary is still a significant number, and for a team that appears to be teetering between rebuilding and competing, that kind of money tied to a depth piece might not make long-term sense. The same goes for Nick Allegretti, another lineman with starting experience, but who has been mostly used as a reserve. Both could easily be viewed as plug-and-play solutions for teams making a postseason push. Think of contenders like the Ravens, Cowboys, or even the Jets, who have dealt with major injuries up front. For the Commanders, moving one or both players could mean clearing cap space and gathering future draft assets. In other words, it's not about giving up. It's about quietly resetting the chessboard while the rest of the NFL still thinks you're playing checkers. And then there's the human side of this equation. The injuries, the heartbreak, the can't catch a break feeling that's starting to hang over this franchise like a storm cloud that just won't move. Sunday night's loss brought not just a scoreboard defeat, but a spiritual gut punch. According to Ian Rappaport, both Luke McCaffrey and Marshon Lattimore suffered injuries that will likely end their seasons. Lattimore's case might be the most devastating of all. The 4-time Pro Bowl cornerback was feared to have torn his ACL, an injury that would not only end his year, but could also cast a shadow over his future. For Washington, it's another cruel twist in a season defined by what-ifs. Through 9 games, Lattimore had posted 27 tackles, 7 passes defensed, and 1 interception, which came in Week 8 against the Kansas City Chiefs. He wasn't playing his best ball early in the season, but there were signs that he was settling into his groove, adjusting to a new defensive scheme, and becoming the anchor in the secondary that the Commanders so desperately needed. Losing him now is a blow that goes beyond the stat sheet. It's a leadership loss, a morale loss, and a tactical loss all rolled into one. If Lattimore's injury was the defensive nightmare, then Luke McCaffrey's broken collarbone was the offensive heartbreak. The rookie wide receiver and kick returner had been one of the few bright spots in an offense plagued by inconsistency and injuries. He was developing real chemistry with Jayden Daniels before the rookie quarterback went down, and even after Daniels' injury, McCaffrey continued to find ways to contribute. 11 catches for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns might not sound like headline-grabbing numbers, but for a young player carving out a niche in the NFL, that's real progress. Add in his impact on special teams, where he provided energy, field position, and momentum, and his loss becomes even more painful. To make matters worse, the injury happened on the first play of the game. Imagine that. The whistle blows, the play unfolds, and before fans even settle into their seats, one of your most promising young players is down, and the air is sucked out of the stadium. That's the kind of sequence that makes you question whether the football gods have it out for you. And now, with both McCaffrey and Lattimore sidelined, the Commanders face the grim reality of playing the second half of the season with a skeleton crew. At 3-6, they're sitting in that dangerous middle ground, too competitive to tank outright, but too banged up to seriously contend. It's a spot that tests not just a team's depth, but its soul. Younger players like Mike Sainristil and Trey Amos will now be thrust into bigger roles in the secondary, and while they've shown flashes, asking them to fill Lattimore's shoes is like asking an apprentice to step in for a master craftsman. The secondary was already giving up the 4th most passing yards per game before this, and now the challenge gets even steeper. On offense, Jalen Lane and others will need to step up to fill McCaffrey's absence, and that's not even accounting for the ongoing uncertainty at quarterback. Without Jayden Daniels, Washington's offense has struggled to find rhythm, alternating between moments of promise and stretches of pure frustration. The injuries have left offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy juggling lineups and play calls, trying to find any combination that clicks. But perhaps the most frustrating part of all this is how familiar it feels. Washington fans have seen this movie before. Injuries piling up, promising seasons derailed, and trade rumors swirling as the front office tries to figure out whether to double down or start over. And to be fair, this time around there are some real reasons to consider a reset. With Wiley and Allegretti drawing interest and several other veterans possibly on the trading block, the Commanders could look to position themselves for a more sustainable future. Imagine flipping those linemen for mid-round draft picks, then using that capital to rebuild depth or even move up in next year's draft. It's not an exciting plan in the short term, but it's the kind of pragmatic move that good organizations make when they recognize that the current version of their roster isn't built to survive the grind of a full season. The difference between teams that tread water and teams that evolve often comes down to timing, and Washington might finally be learning that sometimes the hardest move is the smartest one. Still, none of that makes it easier for the players in that locker room. For them, this isn't about draft capital or salary cap space. It's about pride, about lining up every Sunday and proving they still belong. The NFL doesn't wait for anyone. Every week is an audition, every snap is a statement. And that's what makes this next stretch of games so crucial for the Commanders. With the season slipping away, the question now isn't just whether they can win, but whether they can keep believing. Head coach Dan Quinn, who's been preaching resilience since training camp, will have to dig deep into that message now. Because the truth is, injuries can wreck a roster, but they can also reveal character. You find out who wants to fight, who wants to lead, and who's already thinking about next year. For the Commanders, these next few weeks will say a lot about which category they fall into. If there's a silver lining, and you have to squint to see it, it's that adversity sometimes accelerates growth. Younger players get their shot. New leaders emerge. The veterans who stick around become the foundation for whatever comes next. Maybe that's what this painful chapter is about for Washington. Maybe it's less about the losses and more about the lessons. Still, when you watch this team right now, you can't help but feel that the hits just keep coming, literally and figuratively. From Wiley's uncertain future to McCaffrey's heartbreak and Lattimore's devastating injury, the Commanders' 2025 season feels like a test of endurance, patience, and faith. The kind of season that, years later, fans and players alike will look back on and say, that's when everything changed. And maybe that's exactly what's happening here, a turning point hiding inside the chaos. The Commanders might not be winning many games right now, but if they handle the next few weeks wisely, balancing trades, managing injuries, and fostering development. They could quietly lay the foundation for something much bigger. Because in the NFL, as cruel as it can be, collapse often precedes rebirth. And for a team that's been searching for stability for far too long, maybe this storm is what clears the path for the future. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. It's official, or at least as official as the NFL rumor mill gets. CeeDee Lamb, the explosive wide receiver who's been the centerpiece of the Dallas Cowboys offense, has reportedly signed with the Washington Commanders. And let me tell you, this move is sending shockwaves through the league, because Lamb isn't just any player. He's the kind of talent that changes the trajectory of a franchise, the kind of receiver that quarterbacks dream about and defenses fear at every snap. The whispers started a few days ago, but sources now suggest that both sides have ironed out a deal that could redefine the NFC landscape. People are already imagining what this means for Washington's offense, for the Cowboys' locker room, and for the NFL narrative heading into next season. It's the kind of news that makes fans spill their coffee and drop their phones, because a player of Lamb's caliber doesn't move teams without shaking the entire football world. For those who've watched Lamb since his college days at Oklahoma, you know this is a player who combines size, speed, and intelligence in a way that's almost unfair. He can line up outside, inside, wherever you want him, and he'll create separation against elite corners. He's got hands like glue, runs routes with surgical precision, and has a knack for making the impossible look routine. Now, imagine all of that moving into Washington's offensive scheme, which has been searching for a true game-changing threat. The Commanders have had flashes of brilliance over the past seasons, but never a bona fide WR1 who can demand double coverage and still make highlight reel plays. Rumor has it that Lamb's presence could force opposing defenses to rethink their entire game plan whenever Washington is on the field. Some insiders are even suggesting that the move could vault the Commanders into legitimate playoff contention in a way that feels sudden, almost shocking, but totally deserved if you've been paying attention to Lamb's trajectory. Meanwhile, the Cowboys fan base is in full-on panic mode. Dallas has built so much of its identity around Lamb, especially over the last few seasons where he's been the focal point of the offense. Losing him isn't just a personnel change, it's a cultural one. Locker room dynamics, team chemistry, the morale of fans, all of it is taking a hit. Some analysts are quietly speculating that this could trigger a domino effect, with the Cowboys looking to rebuild around Dak Prescott differently, potentially targeting new playmakers through the draft or free agency. And while the Cowboys brass might insist that they're confident in their remaining weapons, the truth is that CeeDee Lamb was the kind of player who could take an offense from good to elite almost single-handedly. His departure leaves a gaping hole that isn't easy to fill, and some are wondering if Dallas underestimated the Commanders' pull or if this was simply a case of money talks and loyalty walks. On the Washington side, excitement is palpable, almost electric. The rumor mill suggests that the Commanders were aggressive in pursuing Lamb, dangling a contract that not only compensates him handsomely, but also signals a commitment to building the team around his talents. Coaches are reportedly thrilled at the prospect of incorporating Lamb into their passing game, and fans are already buzzing with speculation about which routes, formations, and trick plays he'll be involved in. The narrative is ripe for a storybook transformation, a superstar receiver leaving a storied franchise like Dallas for a team that's hungry for a breakout moment. And insiders aren't shy about suggesting that this could also be a power move, a statement that the Commanders are no longer willing to play second fiddle in the NFC East. Washington's front office may have finally made the splash that turns whispers into headlines, and if Lamb stays healthy and motivated, this could be the start of a new era for the team. Now, of course, every big move like this comes with its share of caveats, and the rumor mill is already buzzing with questions. How will Lamb mesh with the current quarterback situation in Washington? Will the offensive line hold up to give him the space he needs to operate at peak efficiency? Can the coaching staff fully exploit his versatility, or will there be growing pains as he adapts to a new playbook and new teammates? Some skeptics are quick to point out that even a player of Lamb's caliber can't single-handedly carry a team to the playoffs. But the overwhelming sentiment is that he significantly raises the ceiling. The rumor atmosphere is thick with speculation, and social media is ablaze with mock draft scenarios, fantasy football projections, and heated debates about who benefits more from this deal. Meanwhile, the Cowboys are quietly trying to reassure fans that the team's future remains bright, even as headlines scream about the sudden, seismic shift in the NFC East's balance of power. It's also worth noting the personal angle in all of this because player moves are never just about stats or strategy. They're about people. Sources hint that Lamb was drawn to the Commanders not just for the contract, but for the opportunity to redefine a franchise and leave a legacy. There's chatter about a strong rapport with the coaching staff, a vision of the team building around him, and even lifestyle factors that can't be ignored. Some insiders suggest that Lamb's leadership qualities will be a game-changer for Washington's younger players, turning what could be a simple roster addition into a cultural revolution. The energy around this signing is palpable, as if the city itself is preparing to rally behind a new star, and the speculation has already taken on a life of its own, predicting record-breaking seasons, highlight reel catches, and maybe even a playoff run that surprises everyone. And while the official press release may be forthcoming, the rumor mill is already in overdrive. Sports talk shows, YouTube commentators, and fans alike are dissecting every possible outcome. The NFC East, which has often been unpredictable, suddenly feels like it's in the midst of a potential shakeup that could redefine rivalries and playoff races. Cowboys-Commanders matchups, already heated, are suddenly must-watch television, because you can bet Lamb will be the focal point of every story, every highlight, every conversation. There's even talk among insiders that this could spark additional moves, as teams scramble to counter Washington's newfound offensive threat. The narrative is alive, evolving, and impossible to ignore, with each new tidbit of information feeding the frenzy. In the end, what's undeniable is that CeeDee Lamb's move to the Commanders, though still couched in the kind of rumor-filled language that dominates NFL reporting, is being treated like a seismic event. Analysts are revising projections, fantasy players are recalculating their strategies, and fans are taking sides in debates that will dominate the offseason. Whether Lamb becomes the cornerstone of a championship-caliber team or simply delivers memorable moments that electrify the stadium, this signing already has the hallmarks of a defining story. The NFL, as always, is a league of narratives, and CeeDee Lamb's reported move from the Cowboys to the Commanders is shaping up to be one of the juiciest, most talked-about storylines of the year. From locker room whispers to social media explosions, this is the kind of news that fuels debates, inspires highlight reels, and reminds everyone why we love football, not just for the games, but for the drama, the rumors, and the thrill of seeing a superstar step onto a new stage, ready to change everything. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.